Our next speaker is Jessi Linkous. Jessi works for the Natural Resources Conservation Service. She's the district conservationist. Here in Greenville, Tennessee, she covers both Greene County and Cocke County. NRCS does assist landowners by providing conservation planning and technical assistance, as well as funding to help with conservation plans. And Jessi is going to provide an overview of the natural resource conservation and the programs that they have available. You can't see me, Jessi, but I can see you. So, no, okay, I might do that. All right. So, are we ready for her?
I think so. Let me. Go ahead and say a few words. Let's see if it works. Can you see me now? Hey.
Yeah, you see me.
All right.
Yeah.
You're on.
Oh, I can hear myself. All right. Hey, I've kind of heard Mike give an introduction of myself. I'm Jessi Linkous with the NRCS here, and I cover Greene and Cocke County. And I've been today just to present to you guys on. Hang on, let me turn the volume down. There we go. To present to you guys what USDA and NRCS can do. I apologize, I can't be there in person. USDA currently has a policy that we are not allowed to attend any public meetings. I would much rather be there than do this this way, but I guess one thing with the pandemic, we've all learned how to compromise and still do things to get the job done. So I've got a presentation I would like to show you guys. And I'm sure many of you have worked with NRCS before. I know a lot of folks that were invited to this. Let's see. Can you guys see that? Yeah. Okay, good deal. I know many of you guys that were invited were USDA participants, maybe an NRCS program. So a lot of you guys have already been through working with different offices, but if not, I'd like to just go over what we can do and maybe see if we can drum up a little business for us. But again, my name is Jessi Linkous. I am the district conservationist for the Natural Resources Conservation Service, and I myself cover Greene and Cocke counties. What is NRCS? Which it's an agency within USDA, but we provide technical assistance and also financial assistance to landowners. And so we'll get into that, exactly what technical assistance is and what also financial assistance. But, the question is, who can we help? And when it comes to technical assistance, we can literally help anybody. It can be farmers, ranchers, local governments, whether it's cities, towns, counties. Also can help with recreational groups. I know out west they do a lot with the tribal governments. And basically, on the technical side, it can come to anybody we can assist with when it comes to questions. And we've got, I guess, one thing that we do on the technical side, especially in Greene County, what I've had a lot of questions about is stream bank stabilization. And we've had the 3 wettest winters, it seems like, on record the last 3 years. And so the creek banks have severely eroded just due to the amount of the high flow, the volume of water coming through, and which we're Department of Agriculture, so we have to work with, when it comes to the financial portion of it, we're kind of stuck to working with agriculture producers. But on the technical side, I've worked with several folks in town, who've got a stream that run through their property and they want to know what they can do with it. So that, that's where I can step in on the technical side and talk to those folks about stream bank stabilization and what they could do there. On technical assistance also, as far as NRCS, the state is broken up into 4 areas. Here's kind of a picture of area 4 for us. NRCS is available all across the country in every state, every county. Some counties may be grouped together, again, like where I've got Greene and Cocke. And I know Hawkins and Hancock are paired together, and there's a few counties that are paired together. But still, in that local office, the head of the office is the district conservationist, and then also under them, as far as staff, there's soil conservationists and soil conservation technicians, and everybody's got, a different a duty, you could say. And then importantly, another aspect of the local office is the soil conservation district. So each county has its own soil conservation district, which is made up, there's a board made up of local members of the county, and it's how the federal government, as far as NRCS or USDA, has contact in that county. They've got that soil conservation board that's kind of their grassroots that connects them to the local people. Uh-oh. Here we go. Okay. So financial assistance. Money's what makes the world go round, and that's, I know a lot of folks are interested in it. And so if an individual is interested in financial assistance, we've got two different programs that we typically run through, and I'll go over those in more detail here a little bit later in the presentation. But most commonly, and several of you guys have probably been through it, it's the Environmental Qualities Incentive Program. We just call it EQIP. And it's typically a 1 to 3 year obligation. Really just depends on the size of the farm and how much conservation we're doing. And then the next step, another program that you can enroll in, is our conservation stewardship program. And I kind of paint a picture of, once you've went through the EQIP and you've been able to really, make the repairs that you need to. The conservation stewardship is a program that you can enroll in, and it's typically a reward program, is how I like to describe it. So, and then as far as funding amounts, anywhere from 75 to 95% we have a federal estimated cost list of what those items should cost, and you typically get reimbursed. It depends on which cost share category you're into, but anywhere from 75 to 90%. So, which is that's a pretty good payment when it comes to reimbursement. So you've gotten this much information. You say, okay, well, maybe I want to have a conservation plan developed. So what can I do? And in that case, what you can do, the producer or the landowner expresses interest in conservation. So the next step is they contact their local field office, and at that point, schedule an appointment, and a local NRCS representative will come out to the farm. And on that farm visit, what'll be done is we're inventory resources, or your resource concerns, to see, what your main goal is and what your considerations are as to far, okay, I'm a cow-calf operator. This is where I'm at right now. This is where I want to go. And then we can step in and make recommendations of what could be done to really assist with that on the conservation side. And that's too where, production is a very important key in conservation as well. And so there's kind of a balancing act between, as much production as you can get and also conservation. And so we kind of try to help you really key in to what you could do on your specific piece of property. And then once we make that plan, we'll sit down, and what I like to do is come back to the office, and we do a computer generated map, and it really helps folks or individuals sit down. And once they see it on paper, it kind of makes sense, instead of just going out there and, well, let's put a fence here, let's put a water tank here, let's set you up for rotational grazing. But once you put it on paper, people can understand it a little more. And some folks we can do it in an intensive rotational grazing plan, to where we've had some folks that they're rotating twice a day. And then some folks just aren't up to that point yet, but they're still, they've got 40 acres, and there's no paddocks on that 40 acres, where we can come in and help set that area up to at least where they can do a rotation, hopefully more than once a week, but it really just, depends on your schedule. And your conservation plan can really match, what your needs are. And so once we come up with a plan, if the landowner is interested, they are more than welcome to apply for cost share. And then that's where we get into the programs. But when you sign an application, you're not obligated to anything. You're just saying, I'm interested to try to get funded to implement my conservation plan. And then we've got to go through a process of ranking, and basically, to sum it up, the more environmental benefit that your project is doing, the more likely of a chance that it has to get funded. In some counties, every project they have gets funded. Some counties, they don't. I'll be honest, in East Tennessee, Greene and Hawkins are probably your two busiest counties when it comes to funding. And so not every application there gets funded. But in Cott County, we don't have a whole lot of applications there. And so we do pretty good about, I'd say at least 90% of those applications get funded. So it really just depends on the county you're in, and also these funds come from the Farm Bill. So that plays into it as well. But after the ranking goes through, if your application gets selected for funding, we'll sit down, and at that point, you sign a contract. And with that contract, you are obligated to implement, what was planned in your conservation plan. Just some examples of what could be in your conservation plan. We do a lot of these automatic waters. And there's kind of two ways to get those. One, if they have access to a pond or a stream, we can, if the landowner's interested in excluding their animals out of that pond or stream, because that was the cattle's water source, or whatever livestock it may be, we can come in and then pay to put in the automatic waters. Another way to do the automatic waters is to set you up in a rotational grazing system, because once you start installing cross fences, you can't help but cut your water source off. And hardly ever do you buy a piece of property and the water source is centrally located. It always seems to be on one end or the other. And so once you start doing the rotation, the water source is too far away, and you start walking weight off your animals. Another practice that we do a lot of is cross fencing, and also this one on the left with the metal T-post, that was the cross fence itself. But then on the right there, that's actually with some of the timeless posts. That one's used for exclusion to fence those animals out of that pond. And as far as, people always ask us for recommendations on products, and we can't specifically say, you need to go with this brand, you need to go with that brand. The way I look at that, and I feel like most other folks do too, it's, you guys are the one, it's your property, it's your farm, you're the one that's got to use it. We've got specs that have to be met, and as long as those specs are met, no matter what brand of the product it is, it's usable. So that's, we get questions like that all the time. And so whether you go with, the vinyl T-post or the metal T-post, or even on the watering facilities, a lot of folks I don't have a picture of it, but they're starting to use the drinking post, and I'm sure there's one on display there somewhere. So that's an option. So it's kind of an open page when it comes to your farm and really what practices we can install. Here's a really good picture. Mike actually took this when he was in my position a few years ago. So this was a farm down in the bus community that we worked on. Perfect East Tennessee operation. You can see cattle in the pond. I think the field might have been split in half, but there was the half that it was split off was used for hay. And we were able to discuss with them to exclude the animals out of the pond, and then, also do a grazing system. And I think this picture was only like 6 weeks apart. You can look at the water, the color of the water quality, and then also the vegetation coming up around it. So it's one of those, some ponds are just going to remain muddy, but there's a lot with a little TLC that'll shock you on how good they'll clean up. Also, I know there's a few of you guys there that are interested in cover crops. And NRCS, it's a really big out west in West Tennessee, but here in this part of the country, really struggle with on the cover crops, because we go by UT's recommended date, and that's to have your seed in the ground by October 15th, while a lot of folks don't have their crop harvested by then. So we're working on some different examples, different things to come up to get around that. But you can see here the benefit of cover crop. What it does is it reduces your weeds. It helps the soil hold moisture, helps your soil quality. And so I think, Melody, she'll probably go over some of that in a garden setting here at the end of the day. But Cover crops are very beneficial, and whether it's big or small, that's something NRCS can help with. Can help you develop a mix as far as what vegetation or what species you can use, and possibly even cost you on it. And another thing that we're the last few years, probably I'd say the last 7 or 8 years, we've had a big push on pollinator habitat. And you guys have heard about how pollinators across the country are, bees. There's not as much pollinator habitat because development, overuse of herbicides, things in that category. And so we're actually able to come in, and the goal for a pollinator habitat is to have 3 flowering species, spring, summer, and fall. So when we plant something, we're going for at least 9 different species, to flower during those times. And then we've got, we can go up to, 12 to 15 species as well. So that's something, if that sounds like you're interested, you can contact your local NRCS office. And then a lot of folks are really interested in high tunnels. So we've done several here in Greene County, and the purpose of a high tunnel really for us is to extend the growing season and, of course, to reduce soil erosion, because you've got a massive amount of rainfall falling down on an open garden or an open area, and this high tunnel covers that, so there's no more soil erosion. And then also for the landowner themselves, they can start January, February, you're kind of out when it comes to, it's usually too cold to grow anything in your high tunnel then. But then at that point, if it warms up the end of February, 1st of March, you're able to start stuff to where if you're outside in the open, here this weekend we just had a frost. So it really, there's a lot of folks that get benefit out of that. And it seems to be more the folks who are doing the farmers markets. And I know a lot of local restaurants are interested in locally grown produce. So that's a big thing that I feel like we've been able to help with. And so if you may be interested in that, you can contact your local office too. So on the wildlife side of things, we do, and I'll be quick, I'm probably about to run out of time. So for wildlife habitat, Greene County itself is in a quail habitat area, a focus area. So we've actually got a TWRA biologist on staff, and if anybody's interested in wildlife, we take him out there with us, and he can go over in great detail about what that producer can do to really, improve their wildlife habitat. And don't think just because you're doing agriculture that you have to, ignore wildlife. You can do things together. I'll roll on through this. This was actually on a farm at the Kingsport Highway. This is Stephen Thomas, our biologist. He did a prescribed burn. And so basically we went in, and this was an old hayfield, and they sprayed it and killed the fescue. And the purpose of burning it was to reset everything. And then what came up was a lot of wildflowers accordingly. But of course, on wildlife side of things, when you, the uglier the better when it comes to the land. Because, as far as briars and just that type of vegetation starts to come up, and to the farmer's eye, that we can't have that. That's not doable. But on the wildlife side of things, it actually gives different animals habitat. So we do quite a bit of that. Management plans. If you've got a large tract of forestry or a forest, we can actually pay to hire a private forester to come in, and they can make recommendations about what you could do. One, on timber management, and then 2, also on wildlife management in those areas. Nutrient management plan and organic. If you're thinking about transitioning to organic, that's something we can actually help pay for a plan to basically the steps of what your operation needs to do to become organic. And then also, if any of you are interested, the Farm Service Agency, I know it costs quite a bit to become organic, but they've got a program to where they can actually pay for maybe 50%. They can pay for a good portion of that fee to become organic, so that may be something to check into. But EQIP, okay, what exactly is EQIP? It's a voluntary program that provides financial and technical assistance to agriculture producers to plan and implement conservation practices. And the whole point is to improve soil, water, plant, animal, air, or related natural resources on ag land or non-industrial private forest land. So we're trying to, with financial funds from the Farm Bill, the whole purpose of that program is to address resource concerns. That can be soil quality issues, water quality issues, animal habitat. And that's really what our focus is. And then again, we run into our most common practices, or here in East Tennessee anyway, are the cross fencing, automatic waters for rotational grazing. And then how it works, I've kind of went over this already, but basically we come out, develop a conservation plan. Once it gets developed and you guys get approved, as you implement, you don't have to implement the whole thing to be reimbursed, but you can implement, you can install the watering system, and then as it's completed, it's a reimbursement. And so it really depends. We can split it up to do as much or as little as you're interested in doing it. The contract, it has to be, so just because we come out there and make a visit, it does not mean you're approved. That happens quite often. That's just a miscommunication. And so I know every office there across the whole country, we try to be very thorough about, here we're developing a plan, and because you signed this application doesn't, you're not approved to go forth and do it, because anything that's done before you're approved, we can't reimburse you for. And then also, we don't want that landowner, to spend, well, I just spent $10,000 fencing off the creek. Well, I'm sorry, sir, I can't, or ma'am, I can't pay you. I can't go back and reimburse you for that. So that's something to be aware of. And like I said, I feel like every office does really good about, making sure to be in contact with the landowner to make sure where they are and what stage. And then also, if you are approved and you're ready to get started and you said, hey, I've got a contractor, I'm ready, come out here, let's meet. I want to lay this project out. And that's exactly what we want to do, is to come out. We don't really, it's not fun when you get a phone call and that individual says, hey, I got my fence done, or hey, I put my watering system in, and I've not talked to that person in a year, and I didn't even know they were working on it. So that's something we try to avoid. So again, we want to be out there, lay the project out before, and then also when it's implemented, we come in and just check on things. We've got certain specs that have to be met, whether it's the water line or the fencing. On the stewardship program, so I say a lot of you guys have already been through EQIP, and you've probably done quite a bit on your property already. So the stewardship program, again, it's like a reward where you've already kind of repaired what conservation or what resource concerns you had on your property. If you had lack of water, or if the animals were in the stream, you've already went through EQIP and fenced the stream off, and you've got the automatic waters. So the stewardship program, what we can do is it's kind of the next step, that it offers additional opportunities to landowners to extend their conservation efforts. And so in the program itself, you also have to do what we consider an enhancement. So it's just your next step. A lot of folks, what we've done recently is it's established clovers, because that's folks struggle with that, and also, that just with our soil type here, they don't hang on for years and years and years. So that's something we go in to do, just establish lagoons. And I know I can't see everybody there, but I know some folks have had a lot of luck with that, but not everybody has. I'm almost finished up here. Another thing you guys can check out, I don't know if you're looking at buying any property or even want to look at your farm. There's a website called Web Soil Survey. And you can go in here and you just Google Web Soil Survey, and you can click start, that big green button, and just go in and type your address in. But it can give you all the details about what soil type's on the property, and just what type, how shallow or how deep it is to rock, what the water table is on there. If everybody comes in, wants to know if they can build a pond, and so that information, if that soil is actually able to hold water, that information's on there. So it's just I wanted to share that, just a neat website to go on and play. And it's also got a measuring tool. You can, if you're planning on building a fence, you can go on there and measure a straight line, or even run a diagonal line. And then also there's polygon. So if you're trying to figure out on your fertilized, or on your, you got to have lime spread or trying to spread seed, you can go on there and draw off that field and really decide, it'll tell you how many acres it is, and it can help with the calculations. So with all that, I'm sure I probably went over my time, but right here are the offices. These are East Tennessee, and I guess the target audience for this crowd was 5 local counties here, but let me turn my volume back up so I can hear you guys. But if you've got any questions, I need to pop that back up. There you go. I don't know if you guys can still see that.
It is still up, Jessi. All right, so is that the end of your presentation, Jessi? Jessi, can you hear me?
Yeah, hang on. Oops. Put me on the spot and I can't do anything. Okay, I can hear you now.
Okay. Jessi, we thank you very much for your presentation. And check out that web soil survey, guys. That is a really neat tool. And like she said, just Google web soil survey. And when you open up that main page, just hit that green button and you got a place to put your address in there. It'll take you right to your farm. And then you can sit there and draw a line around your farm, your field, whatever you want to do. And there's a lot of information, so it's a great, great tool. Okay. While they're getting set up for the
Thank
next.
y'all. See ya.
Thank you, Jessi.